It just keeps getting worse and worse for this guy right here. Sean Diddy Combs' lawyer quits the case, saying under no circumstances can I continue. I don't think y'all really fully grasping what this lawyer just did. This lawyer literally basically just said there's no amount of money that you can possibly pay me to defend you. Meaning that like he couldn't even mentally continue defending this dude. Imagine you know someone is completely in the wrong and they have hella evidence for all these crimes that you've committed in the past, and the lawyer sees all of it laid out in front of him and he's like, damn, this nigga really did do it. Like everything that was being talked about, from Cassie to all the other victims, hundreds of calls being called to the lawyer firm. He's like, holy shucks. So he quit. No amount of money. The morals got to him. He couldn't do it no more. So without further ado, let's get straight into this video. And before we do that, I do need to show you guys I have a community right here. And let me tell you, the content within this community is absolutely priceless. And the reason why I say that is because I know what it's done for my life. I'm here because of the mindset I have, my fitness goals that I have, the business, and I even gave an entire course on how to start your YouTube channel and be successful. I'll be accepting the first 5 people that DM me join, and I'll just let you in for free as my way of giving back to you guys. Without further ado, let's see what's going on though.
Your lawyer said he can't help you. Oh man.
I don't think this really in perspective for y'all, fam. This man's lawyer said, in no way, shape, form, or fashion can I continue to represent this man, bro. I won't be able to sleep at night. Do you know who he's represented in the past? That man, one of his previous clients, was a part of Osama bin Laden's terrorist group. Like, this brother would have been okay representing the Joker in court, but he drew the line at the diddler. Oh, that brother is guilty.
Did you hear about Diddy's lawyer quitting? Oh yeah, so Diddy's lawyer quit on the case, and Diddy's lawyer literally represented Osama bin Laden at one point. So you was representing terrorist, whatever you want to call him. Okay, cool. What the fuck was Diddy doing with baby oil for a nigga to say I can't represent him no more? I'm gonna be honest with you. I think the nigga getting life plus 100 years. He's already 50. I don't see that nigga getting out. Understandably so. I'm doing the research. Niggas is in fucking their ass. Baby oil everywhere. Squirting the shit baby oil all over niggas. And I don't think y'all understand how long baby oil really takes to dissolve. I have my own personal bottle of baby oil. I use it for my own personal endeavors. I'm not gonna go in detail. And it has taken me almost 2 years to get rid of it. This nigga has a personal supply of thousands of bottles, and he's never ran out of any of it. Which means how much of this shit is he using? Because I personally heard if you was to walk in Diddy room with all the baby oil, you can slide on the ground like a slug.
Nah, that's absolutely insane. That one picture that they had of Diddy oils, Diddy oils of Diddy's bathroom with all them oils. That means he's really just running through the oils, bro. You gonna have oil dripping down from the ceiling after a Diddy marathon. That shit is insane.
It's like a water slide. You just come in and just niggas is sliding butt naked, going across. You just see Dick Balls, Johnson, ass cheeks, just jiggling and shit. Like, what the fuck going on here? I don't know if he has to use a biohazard team to clean the entire room after these niggas is done with baby oil. If you was to take 1,000 bottles of baby oil and put it on one person's body, this nigga would die. He would literally, if he don't turn into a Marvel superhero and become baby oil man, this nigga would die. This shit would clog your pores. To me, if this nigga is really doing what niggas say he doing, this took a long time for this nigga to go to jail. And been saying he been fucking niggas in they booty holes since I was like 9 years old. It took a long fucking time. Hey, I don't know if he's in there eating cheeseburgers or biscuits or getting the phone in there, because they say he running to jail. I guess he threatened niggas with baby oil. He probably said, you heard what I did to the last niggas with baby oil, you want it done to you, and I guess niggas is giving their commissary money up. I don't know, must be the order.
A huge blow to Diddy's defense team just 3 months before his high-profile trial is expected to start.
On Friday, a surprising announcement came down. One of his defense attorneys suddenly quits the case. I'm Elizabeth Milner with Law and Crime. Now, this particular defense attorney's reason for quitting wasn't really a reason at all, making his departure a lot more puzzling.
Shortly after Diddy's arrest, his defense team grew when he stacked on 2 more defense attorneys.
That makes no sense. There had to have been a reason, bruh. There's only one reason that we could possibly think of, because ain't no lawyer giving up that amount of money that he's getting paid for no reason. Come on.
Mark Agnifilo and Tinny Garagos at the defense table. Now, the 2 that joined at the time were high-profile attorney Alexandra Shapiro, whose client Sam Bankman-Fried actually shared a unit at the detention center with Diddy, and high-profile death penalty attorney Anthony Rico. Now, while the pair joined around the same time, Anthony, in a court filing on Friday, said he's leaving the case. In the filing, Anthony Rico said, quote, "For the reasons set forth below, this motion for withdrawals is filed so that Sean Combs may move forward with his defense and to commence jury selection in and trial without any delay. As a result of discussion with lead counsel Mark Agnifilo, this motion for withdrawal of counsel is filed. While I am aware that the local rule requires that an application for withdrawal of counsel is supported and granted, there are sufficient reasons related to protections afforded by the attorney-client privilege for brevity in my application for withdrawal as counsel in this case. Although I have provided Sean Combs with the high level of legal representation expected by the court, under no circumstances can I continue to effectively serve as counsel for Sean Combs, end quote. Now, essentially in legalese, I quit, but I can't go into details because of attorney-client privilege. According to the filing, though, the defense shakeup won't delay the case. Diddy will continue with 5 attorneys. That's Mark Agnifilo, Tenny Garagos.
Wow. Like, he literally said under no circumstance will I be able to continue. That means, like, yo, there's no amount of money that someone can pay me for me to continue this case right here. Nothing.
Alexandra Shapiro, Jason A. Driscoll, and Anna Esteval. Now, a judge still has to sign off on the motion, but with the government taking no position on it and the fact Anthony Rico spoke with Mark Agnifilo about it before filing the motion, a judge will likely sign off on it. Now, as I mentioned, Anthony Rico is a very well-established death penalty attorney and was lead defense in up to 45 federal death penalty cases. His bio on the Fordham Law University website says some of the notable yet controversial cases included Anthony Rico serving on the counsel in the World Trade bombing conspiracy case and embassy bombing in 1998. And he stays busy. He also doubles as an adjunct professor of law at Fordham and has been practicing law since 1982. As for Diddy himself, as many of us know, he's been locked up on charges of federal sex trafficking, racketeering conspiracy, and transportation to engage in prostitution. Now, that last charge I mentioned, i.e. count 3 in his indictment, transportation to engage in prostitution, well, Diddy's lawyers are wanting that charge thrown out, citing it's from a racist law. Just days before Anthony Rico filed a motion to withdraw from Diddy's counsel, Diddy's lawyers filed a motion to dismiss that charge because they argue no white person has ever been the target of a remotely similar prosecution. So that charge is known as the Mann Act, which was previously named by Congress as the White Slave Traffic Act, which made it illegal to transport people across state or international lines for the purpose of prostitution. Here's the thing. Diddy's lawyer says the law has a history of racial bias. Diddy's defense seems to be gearing up toward his alleged criminal conduct wasn't criminal. It was his personal business of what was going on in his bedrooms or hotels or wherever the freak-offs occurred. So they're saying that count 3 wasn't transportation to engage in prostitution, but was just him using escorts, male escorts at that, to bring in as a third with his girlfriends. Whereas the government's theory of the case is Diddy used force, fraud, and coercion to make his alleged victims have sex against their will in his freak-offs that he recorded for his own pleasure. Now, Diddy pleaded not guilty to all his charges, hence why the case is going to trial. And that trial is set for less than 3 months from now, in early May. Now, despite being locked up for 5 months, Diddy's case continues to make headlines, not just from the federal trial, but also the dozens of civil lawsuits he still faces. But Diddy scored some wins behind bars. One of his civil lawsuits accusing him of raping a 13-year-old with Jay-Z back in 2000 was dismissed after the accuser dropped her lawsuit against the two moguls. Now, both vehemently denied the allegation, and Jay-Z, for his part, took it a step further and sued the accuser's attorney, Tony Busby, for extortion. However, despite that being dismissed, Diddy still faces a number of civil suits, even from accusers whose lawyer isn't Tony Busby. As for Diddy's federal criminal case, the stakes are high. He's facing a minimum of 15 years in prison, but a maximum of life behind bars.
Let's break down the latest defense team shakeup with attorney and former federal prosecutor Nima Rahmani. Nima, it's always great to see you, and thank you so much for joining me today.
15 is
What's
his
your
minimum
reaction
right
to
now.
Anthony Rico saying he's quitting the defense team, and how significant is it, being that Diddy's 3 months away from trial?
Elizabeth, it is significant, and it's tough to know the reason why. It could be any number of possibilities. Sometimes it's when the lawyer hasn't been paid, but we know obviously Diddy doesn't have that problem. He's got plenty of money. It could be a disagreement regarding defense strategy. It could be a conflict. It could be a health issue. It really could be anything, and the paperwork doesn't identify it, nor should it. And the fact that Mark Agnifilo is still on the case and the other counsel of record leads me to believe that the judge is going to rubber stamp this motion and grant it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was kind of surprised, like you were too, because even being inside the courtroom and throughout Diddy's hearings, you would see Diddy and Anthony kind of speaking to one another. He would always pass him notes while Mark Agnifilo made the arguments. Diddy and Anthony Rico would exchange hugs with one another. Anthony Rico always even made it a point to tell the judge Diddy's family traveled all the way from traveled all the way to New York for his hearings. With all of that being said, kind of going back to what potentially the reasoning might be, do you think that it might have been a personal conflict between Diddy and Anthony Rico, or do you think it might have been Anthony Rico with other counsel? But what do you make of all of that?
Potentially, it could be a conflict with the client, right? A disagreement. They just don't get along. The communication is poor. They don't agree on defense strategy. It could be a conflict with one of the other lawyers. Obviously, seems like Agnifilo is the lead on this case, although Rico was certainly, yeah, his 1B. And I know obviously there's other lawyers on the case. Obviously, a lot of the victims are female. They're going to want female lawyers in the defense team, especially during some of the aggressive cross examination. That tends to be the conventional wisdom when you're dealing with victims who are alleged victims of sexual assault or abuse. And then it could be a conflict with one of the victims themselves. Maybe Agnifilo, excuse me, maybe Rico consulted with them or even represented them in such a way that he has to get off the case. So it could be any number of potential conflicts.
Absolutely. And yeah, kind of just looking at the motion to withdraw too, like you had mentioned before, not much reasoning given. Anthony Rico wrote, there are sufficient reasons related to the protections afforded by attorney-client privilege for brevity in my application for withdrawal as counsel in this case, although I've provided Sean Combs with the high level of legal representation expected by the court, under no circumstances can I continue to effectively serve as counsel. Five other attorneys will remain on record. What do you make of just that? It felt like he was saying a lot, but then not at all.
All right, Shorty, you asked him the same question 3 times. He gave you 3 different answers. What else do you want from this man? You think he's gonna tell you something different? What's this interviewer's name? Did she not just ask the same question 3 times in 3 different ways? What are they trying to do? Get minutes? They trying to get that YouTube watch time.
Do you think they have something else up their sleeve, or do you think that the defense will kind of remain going forward that, all of this alleged bad acts were consensual and it was just a relationship between two parties? It ended sourly, but yet they, brought in escorts, and that kind of speaks to a little bit of that transportation to engage in prostitution charge. But what do you just make of the defense strategy that we've been seeing so far right now?
I think it has to be the defense, the consent, because look, sometimes you can argue that the sexual activity never happened, right? It wasn't me, defense. But this is not your typical sexual assault case. There are a lot of people there, right? There are people that are arranging the sex workers. There are people that are setting up lights and cameras, booking hotel rooms. Obviously, Diddy has a large entourage. So there's a lot of witnesses there, and a lot of this was allegedly recorded. So I think it's going to be very difficult to argue that it wasn't me. So you're going to have to argue that it was consensual. And we've talked about the line that separates sex trafficking from consensual sex. It's that force, fraud, or coercion. So I fully expect the defense to be, this was all consensual. These are all people who are trying to shake Diddy down for money. This is all extortion. That's why they're pursuing these claims. They're just piling on. But really, this is regret, not rape. And I think that's the defense strategy in this case.
And I want to talk to you about a motion that was actually filed earlier this week, too, where Diddy's defense wants to dismiss count 3 of the indictment, that being transportation to engage in prostitution. They cite that the Mann Act is racist and that Diddy has been singled out because he's a powerful black man and he's being prosecuted for conduct that regularly goes unpunished. What do you make of that argument?
Those are very difficult motions to win. So it's essentially a selective prosecution motion. And the example I always like to give is, let's say you're speeding and a police officer pulls you over. It's not a legal defense to say, well, all these other people were speeding, but you didn't pull them over and ticket them. You have to show that the prosecution is for a constitutionally prohibited reason. Obviously, race being one of them. If the unlikely chance the defense can prove that this was a racially motivated prosecution, that would have a chance of success. Obviously, that's going to be very difficult because there are a lot of victims. I believe that a lot of the victims were also black victims, men and women. So it's going to be tough to make that argument. But, that's why defense attorneys do what they do. Sometimes they throw these Hail Mary motions up there, hoping that maybe something will stick, if not at the trial court, maybe on appeal.
And you mentioned that, a Hail Mary. Why do you think that they waited until a few months before the trial set to begin to file that motion, given that count 3 has been on the indictment since September?
Sometimes you brainstorm, you talk with different appellate lawyers, because when you're defending a case like this, you're not just thinking about the trial court. You're thinking, okay, well, if Combs is convicted, what are the chances on appeal, both to the Second Circuit, which is the Court of Appeal there, and then potentially the Supreme Court? What arguments can we make? Creative arguments. So sometimes the appellate lawyers will come in, and oftentimes they aren't the folks that have anything to do with trying the case. You got your trial lawyers, you got your appellate lawyers. So maybe they come in and they say, hey, I want this motion filed because if you don't
Of a jury, I feel like they would have to be pretty delicate.
All right, family, we're gonna leave that right there.
know,
Comment below what y'all think. What do y'all think the reason was? And do y'all think Diddy even has a chance? Because the narrative around Diddy hasn't been as, you know what I'm saying, I guess as new or as popping or as viral on the internet. But once May comes around, once that trial starts, he's going to be back in the media full time from the cell. That's going to be very, very interesting to see. Or even like if they have like court footage that's going to be coming out. That's going to be very interesting too. All right, I hope you guys did enjoy this video. Like I said in the beginning, just DM me join to get free access to the private community. I love you guys. Peace.
question, and it's not good news.